Hey guys, tonight we are diving into a world without smartphones, without social media, but with a whole lot more drama than you might expect. We're heading back to Colonial America, specifically a small New England town where the walls are thin, the windows are few, and everyone, and I mean everyone, knows your business. We're going to explore what happens when a tiny bit of gossip gets out of hand, and the punishment is something uniquely, soul-crushingly awkward. You'd probably prefer the stocks. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It truly helps the channel find other people like you, who enjoy drifting off to the past. And for our little ritual, drop a comment letting me know your city and what time it is for you right now. It's always a quiet thrill to see where everyone is tuning in from around the globe. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The world has shrunk to the size of a single room, illuminated by the soft, sputtering halo of a single tallow candle on your rough, hewn table. Outside, the New England night is a vast, profound blackness, broken only by a sliver of moon and a smattering of impossibly bright stars. The fire in the hearth is the true heart of your small home, hissing and popping as it battles the insistent chill that seeps through the log and daub walls. You pull your scratchy wool blanket a little tighter around your shoulders. The day's work is done, the mending is finished, the butter has been churned, and the simple supper of cornmeal, mush and salted pork has been cleared away from the pewter plates. All that is left is the quiet, and in this world, silence is a physical presence. There are no engines humming in the distance, no electronic hums, no traffic. There is only the sigh of the wind in the chimney and the occasional, unsettling skittering sound within the walls that tells you a mouse is going about its nightly business. Your house is small, perhaps only 2 rooms, and it stands on a small plot of land near the center of town. From your one precious window, you can't see rolling, isolated farmland. That's not the way it works here. You see the dull, angular shapes of your neighbors' houses. You can see the faint glow from Goodman Abernathy's window to your left. And you know Goodwife Miller's house is just a stone's throw behind you. This is a key feature of your Puritan town, it is. By design, a community built on proximity. The original leaders planned it this way, ensuring everyone lived close to the meeting house, close to the church, and, most importantly, close to each other, for mutual support. They said, for mutual observation. You get up and walk to that small window. The glass is wavy and imperfect, a luxury imported from England at great expense. Many of your neighbors still make do with oiled paper or simple wooden shutters. Peering through it, you can see the steeple of the meeting house, a black spear piercing the starry sky. It is the physical and spiritual center of your entire universe. Everything revolves around it. It's where you gather for Sunday service, of course, but it's also where town meetings are held, where public notices are posted, and where justice is dispensed. This is where a great historical debate plays out in your daily life, where these tight-knit communities the pinnacle of social cohesion, a genuine attempt at creating a godly city upon a hill where neighbors supported each other through harsh winters and the ever-present fear of the unknown wilderness. Or were they, in fact, claustrophobic, high-pressure societies where every action was scrutinized, every deviation from the norm was noted, and social control was the ultimate goal? Standing at your window, looking out at the sleeping town, you can feel both sides of that argument in your bones. There is comfort in knowing that if your fire went out, a neighbor would provide an ember. There is security in the knowledge that if a child fell ill, a dozen women with their own folk remedies and prayers would be at your door. But there is also a constant, low-level pressure. You know that the argument you had with your husband last week was probably overheard. You know that the extra bit of ribbon you bought at the market did not go unnoticed. There are no secrets here. Your life is an open book, and everyone in town is reading it over your shoulder. A log collapses in the fireplace, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney. The sound startles you from your thoughts. It's late. The candle is burning low, the wicks puttering in a pool of melted tallow. You secure the simple wooden bar across your door, a defense more against the wild animals of the forest than against any human threatened. Make your way to your bed. It's a simple rope bed, with a mattress stuffed with straw or corn husks, but after a long day, it feels like a luxury. You climb in, pulling the heavy quilts over you. The room is cold away from the immediate vicinity of the fire. You can see your breath in the air as you lie there, drifting into the first stages of sleep. The sounds of the night are your lullaby. The wind, the creak of the house settling, the distant hoot of an owl. It's a peaceful end to a simple day. You feel safe, out of a hole. Tomorrow will be much like today. You'll rise with the sun, do your chores, speak with your neighbors. You have no reason to think that a few careless words, spoken in confidence, are about to unravel the simple peace of this quiet colonial night. But for now, the only business is sleep. The first light of dawn is not a gentle thing here. It's cold, grey, watery light that seeps through the window, making the familiar shapes of your room look stark and unwelcoming. It doesn't invite you to wake up. It commands you. You rise from your bed, the warmth of your cocoon instantly stolen by the frigid air. The embers in the hearth have died, leaving behind a fine white ash and a chill that has conquered the room overnight. Dressing is a swift, practical affair. You pull on a simple linen shift, a petticoat, a woolen bodice, and a sturdy apron. There are no vanities here, no mirrors to consult. Your appearance is a matter of function, not for your first and most pressing task of the day awaits, one that requires leaving the relative privacy of your home and stepping into the public sphere. You need water. You grab the heavy wooden bucket by the door and step outside. The air is sharp and clean, smelling of damp earth and the reassuring scent of wood smoke from the few other early risers. The dirt path that serves as a road is empty for now, and the ground is hard and cold under your leather shoes. You walk towards the town center, your bucket handle creaking a steady rhythm with your steps. Your destination is the town well. The well is more than just a source of water. It is the town's social nexus. Its bulletin board, its news center. It's the place where the news of the day is drawn up along with the cold, clear water. And as you approach, you see you are not the first one here. A small cluster of women, your neighbors, are already gathered, their own buckets waiting. Their voices carry on the still morning air, a low murmur of conversation. This daily pilgrimage is your morning news feed. While the men might discuss politics and land deeds over a pint at the tavern, this is where the real life of the town is dissected. It's here you learn who is expecting a child, whose son is recovering from a fever, who has a new cow, and who received a letter from relatives back in England. It is a network of information run by and for the women of the community, and it is ruthlessly efficient. Historians have debated for years about the true function of these female-dominated spaces. Was the gossip at the well a form of social glue, a way to build solidarity and share vital information that ensured the community's survival? Knowing that good wife Bishop's youngest has the croup allows others to offer help, share remedies, and take precautions. In this view, the gossip is a vital public service. Or was it a two-love social control, a place where reputations were policed, and anyone who stepped out of line was subtly, or not so subtly, shamed back into conformity? A woman who dressed a little too finely, a family that seemed a little too proud their status could be chipped away, whisper by whisper, right here at the base of the well. The truth, you suspect, is that it was both. It was a place of both support and judgment, often in the same breath. You take your place in line, nodding a greeting. The conversation pauses for a beat, acknowledging your arrival, before seamlessly weaving you in. You listen as you wait your turn, absorbing the day's first reports, the price of wool, the quality of the latest shipment of molasses at the general store, the minister's long winded sermon last Sunday. It's all part of the daily tapestry. Finally, it's your turn. You lower your bucket into the deep, dark shaft. You hear the splash as it hits the water far below. You begin to haul it up, hand over hand on the thick earth thread. The bucket is heavy now, the water slushing against its sides. As it emerges into the light, you peer into it, The water is mostly clear, but you know it's not entirely to be trusted. This leads to a quirky fact of your daily life. You rarely drink this water straight. Drinking plain water was often seen as a last resort, something for animals or the very poor. You'll use this for washing and boiling, but for drinking, it will likely be mixed with beer or cider to make small beer or a weak, watered minus down cider. The alcohol was believed to purify the water, and at the very least, it made it taste better. You heave the bucket onto the stone lip of the well and rest for a moment, catching your breath, and it is in the small, ordinary pause that your day takes a turn. To women, standing just a few feet away, are talking in lower, more urgent tones than the others. They don't think you can hear them over the creak of the pulley and the general chatter. But you can. You are a good listener, and the names they are whispering are the names of the wealthiest, most powerful merchant in town, and his young, pretty wife. Your ears prick up. You lean back slightly, pretending to adjust your shawl, angling yourself just so. A new piece of information is about to be drawn from the well, and it has nothing to do with water. The names catch in the air like burrs on a woolen stocking. Master Josiah Croft and his wife, Eleanor. You know them, of course. Everyone knows them. Master Croft is not just the town's most successful merchant. He's a seligman, a man whose donation paid for the new bell in the meeting house steeple. His house is the largest in town, the only one with 2 full stories and a brick facade. He is a pillar of the community, a man to be respected, and perhaps just a little bit feared. You busy yourself, fussing with the rope of your bucket, making it look like a tangled mess. It's the oldest trick in the book of eavesdropping. The 2 women, Goodwife Putnam and the widow Shaw, are now fully engrossed in their hushed exchange. The sea serpent made port in Boston last week. Goodwife Putnam whispers, her voice a conspiratorial hiss. My cousin's husband works the docks. He saw the manifest. And the widow Shaw prompts, her eyes wide with anticipation. Not just the usual nuptials and rum and woolens. There was a separate, private crate, addressed directly to Croft. Goodwife Putnam leans in closer, her voice dropping even lower, forcing you to strain to hear. French silk, she said, bolts of it, and lace from Brussels. Even a small cask of what they called perfumed water. The words hang in the cold morning air, more shocking than any curse. French silk, Brussels lace, perfume. These are not mere goods. They are symbols. They are vanities, trifles of the vain and godless European courts you are taught to despise. They are popish luxuries, the kind of worldly adornments that lead a soul away from God and towards pride. In a town where a simple, unminus-dyed linen collar is the height of Sunday best, the thought of such fripperies is scandalous. But the widow Shaw adds the final, damning detail. For his shop, she asks, though her tone suggests she already knows the answer. For his wife, Putnam scoffed, a triumphant, bitter little sound. To what end? To drape herself in finery while the rest of us patch our homespun. A man of his standing should know better. He sets a poor example. There it is, the rumor, in all its potent, delicious detail. It's not just about business. It's about character. It's about a wealthy man indulging his young wife's vanity. It's about pride, that most insidious of sins. The story is a perfect little package of envy, moral judgment, and high-minded status drama. It's irresistible. You feel a strange, thrilling little shock go through you. It's the thrill of forbidden knowledge. A secret about the town's most untouchable family is now buzzing in your head. You've heard sermons, dozens of them, about the dangers of the idle tongue and the sin of bearing false witness. You know, on a deep, doctrinal level, that what you are doing while you are enjoying is wrong. But the knowledge feels like a worn stone in your pocket on a cold day. It's something you have. Here is where the unique social physics of your town comes into play. A rumor like this is a weapon. It's a way for the less powerful, like Goodwife Putnam, to police the behavior of the powerful, like Master Croft. It's a form of social ladling, a check on anyone who might be getting too big for their britches. Historians still argue about whether this kind of gossip was a destructive, chaotic force or a necessary, self-regulating mechanism in these rigid communities? Was it the poison that sickened the town's spirit, or the fever that burned out the infection of pride? You decide your rope is sufficiently untangled. You hoist your heavy bucket. The water slushing precariously close to the rim. You turn to the two women, who fall silent and look at you. Their expressions a mixture of guilt and curiosity. Did you hear? Your face is a perfect, neutral mass. Good day to you. Good wife, Putnam. Widow Shaw, you say. Your voice even. They murmur their own greetings, and you turn to leave. The walk home is different. The bucket seems heavier now, weighted not just with water, but with the secret you carry. Your mind is racing. The story is playing over and over in your head. French silk. Hey, young wife. Hey, doting, foolish husband. It's such a good story. It feels wrong to keep it to yourself. It feels like it needs to be shared, just to see what others think. It's not malice. You tell yourself. It's just conversation. You are already, subconsciously, composing the sentences you will use when you see your friend at the market later. The seed has been planted, and you are going to make sure it grows. The story burns in your mind all morning. It's a distraction from the rhythmic, dulling work of kneading dough, a background hum while you sweep the hearth. Every mundane task is colored by the secret knowledge you possess. The rumor feels like a living thing, a small, restless bird cupped in your hands, and it wants to fly. Late in the morning, you take your small basket and head to the town's central market. It's not a grand affair, just a few stalls set up in the open square near the meeting house. But it's bustling. Farmers are selling their autumn harvest squash, potatoes, and hard-minus shelled pumpkins. A cooper is hawking his barrels, and the scent of wood shavings hangs in the air. This, like the well, is a place of commerce, but also of connection. Your eyes scan the crowd, and you spot her, your friend, Sarah. Her husband is a town blacksmith, a good, steady man. Sarah is your confidant, the person with whom you share the small joys and large frustrations of your life. You trust her, or at least, you believe you do. You make your way over to her. She is haggling with a farmer over the price of a bushel of apples, her face a mask of stern concentration. You wait patiently. When she finishes her transaction, she turns to you with a wide, warm smile. Good day, Mary, she says. Are those your husband's boots I hear needing new soles already? You laugh, a genuine, easy sound. The familiar comfort of her friendship puts you at ease. You chat for a few minutes about the usual things, the weather, your children, the rising price of candles. It's all perfectly normal, perfectly safe, but the little bird of gossip is beating its wings against your ribs, demanding release. You lean in a little closer, lowering your voice, a gesture that is an unspoken signal for, I have something important to tell you. Sarah's eyes light up with interest. She leans in, too. The world shrinks to the small, conspiratorial space between your two bonnets. You will not believe what I heard at the well this morning. You begin, and with that, the cage is open. You tell her the story. You try to tell it exactly as you heard it. A simple reporting of the facts. The ship from Boston, the private crate, the silks and the lace. But as the words leave your mouth, you find yourself adding a little flourish here, a touch of emphasis there. It's almost unconscious. You describe the perfumed water with a slight curl of your lip, as if you can smell the sinful aroma yourself. When you mention Eleanor Croft, you might add a small, almost imperceptible shake of your head, or gesture that says, that poor, misguided creature. This is a key moment, the act of transmission. And here's a fascinating, if unsettling, psychological truth that historians and sociologists have studied. The act of sharing a secret, especially a negative one, creates a powerful, temporary bond. For this brief moment, you and Sarah are a special unit, a two-person club defined by shared knowledge against an outsider. It's an intoxicating feeling. You are not just sharing news. You are reinforcing your shared values, your shared sense of what is right and wrong. You are on the inside, and Eleanor Croft, with her fancy silks, is on the outside. A tiny, uncomfortable historical detail. Here is the legal precariances of what you're doing. In your world, slander and libel are not just social faux pas. They are actual crimes. The Puritans took the commandment against bearing false witness very seriously. A person's reputation, their good name, was considered a valuable, tangible asset. To damage it with words was a form of theft, an attack on their standing in the community and, by extension, their ability to do business and live a secure life. Courts regularly heard cases of defamation, and the punishments could be severe. But, in the warm, confidential bubble of your conversation with Sarah, such legalistic thoughts are a world away. Sarah listens, her expression a perfect blend of shock and morbid fascination. French silks, she repeats, her voice a hushed whisper of disapproval. What does a woman in this town need with such things? Is she planning to open a royal court in her parlor? Her reaction is exactly what you hoped for. It validates your own feelings. It confirms that the story is as juicy, as significant, as you thought it was. You feel a small, sweet sting of importance. You were the one who brought this news. You were the one who knew. In a life that is often monotonous and circumscribed, this feeling of being at the center of the story, of holding a piece of valuable information, is a potent drug. You finish the story, and the two of you stand there for a moment in shared, silent judgment. You have successfully passed the rumor on. The little bird has flown from your hands and landed on Sarah's shoulder. You feel a sense of relief, of a pressure release. But what you don't realize, what you can't possibly know in this moment of fleeting satisfaction, is that the bird is no longer yours to control. You have let it go into the world, and when you see it again, it may have grown into something you no longer recognize. A monster with your face. For a day or two, life continues as normal. You go about your chores. You tend to your family, and you feel the quiet, satisfying hum of being an insider. When you see your friend Sarah at the market, you share a knowing glance, a silent communication that reaffirms your special bond. The secret you share is a small, pleasant warmth between you. You feel no guilt, only a faint, lingering sense of importance. Then, about a week later, you find yourself back at the well. It's a bit later in the morning this time, and a different group of women is gathered. You are exchanging pleasantries when the conversation takes a familiar turn. It's Goodwife Allen speaking, a woman known for her rather dramatic flair. Can you imagine the nerve? She is saying, her voice ringing with theatrical indignation. To parade such vanities before the Lord's own people. Your ears prickle. You have a sinking feeling you know what this is about. What is this? You ask, feigning ignorance. Goodwife Allen turns to you, her eyes wide. You haven't heard about Eleanor Croft? They say her husband, Master Croft, has been using his business dealings to secretly import papist goods from France. Statues of saints, they say, and rosary beads, all hidden in crates marked textiles. You stand there, your bucket of water, suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. The world seems to tilt slightly on its axis. Statues of saints, rosary beads. This is not the story you heard. This is not the story you told. The rumor about silks and lace was a matter of vanity, of social pride. This is something else entirely. This is an accusation of secret Catholicism, of popery. In your staunchly Protestant community, a town founded by people who fled religious persecution in England, this is one of the most serious and dangerous accusations one can make. It borders on treason against the very soul of the town. You watch as the story you started, the little bird you released, now flies around the circle of women, but it has grown monstrous talons under vicious beak. Each woman adds a new, horrifying feather. I heard he built a secret chapel in his cellar. One whispers. They say she wears a silver cross under her bodice. Another adds. The original, factual CD private crate of fine goods has been completely lost. In its place has sprouted a wild, thorny vine of pure invention, fed by the fertile soil of suspicion, envy, and religious anxiety. You see your own small, selfish act of gossip reflected back at you. magnified and distorted into something ugly and dangerous. This is the classic telephone game effect, a phenomenon as old as human language itself. But here, in this close, high-stakes environment, it's not a game, it's a social wildfire. Historians studying the Salem witch trials, which took place just a generation or two before your time, noted this exact pattern. Small neighborhood squabbles and whispered rumors could rapidly escalate into accusations of witchcraft, with deadly consequences. Your town isn't on the verge of a witch hunt, but the underlying psychological mechanics are the same. Fear is a powerful amplifier. A particularly weird and specific type of rumor that often spread in colonial America was the imposter narrative. Stories would circulate about a prominent person who was not who they seemed, a secret Catholic, a bigamist with a family in another colony, or even someone of a different race passing as white. These stories tapped into a deep-seated anxiety about identity and authenticity in a new and fluid society. The accusation against Master Croft fits perfectly into this pattern. You feel a cold knot of dread form in your stomach. This has gone too far. You want to speak up, to say, no, that's not what I heard. It was just silk. But how can you? To do so would be to admit that you were the source of the original rumor. You would be exposing your own role in this ugly business, so you stay silent, your tongue feeling thick and useless in your mouth. Your silence is a form of consent, another small log tossed onto the growing fire. You mumble an excuse about needing to get home, pick up your bucket, and walk away. The cheerful chatter of the women fades behind you, replaced by the frantic pounding of your own heart. The sweet sting of importance you felt just a few days ago has curdled into the bitter taste of fear. This is no longer a juicy secret that makes you feel special. It is a lie that is taking on a life of its own, and you have a terrible, sinking feeling that when the truth eventually comes out, the story will lead right back to your doorstep. The chill you feel has nothing to do with the autumn air. It's a social frost, settling over your interactions in the days that follow. The rumor about the Crofts has now saturated the town, as pervasive and inescapable as the smell of wood smoke. You see it in the way people's eyes dart towards the Croft family pew on Sunday, in the hushed conversations that abruptly stop when Eleanor Croft enters the general store. The air is thick with suspicion, and the frost is beginning to settle on you, too. You see Sarah, your friend, across the town square. You raise a hand to wave, but she suddenly becomes very interested in a display of pottery, turning her back to you. It's a small thing, a subtle avoidance, but it feels like a slap. Later, you approach a group of women you know, and the easy circle of conversation tightens, leaving no room for you to join. They don't say anything unkind. They don't have to. The averted eyes and the sudden, strained silence are message enough. They know, or at least, they suspect. In the intricate web of town relationships, tracing a rumor back to its source is a simple matter of social arithmetic. Sarah told to people, who each told to more. Someone, somewhere along that chain, has figured it out and pointed the finger back at you. You are no longer seen as a reliable neighbor. You are a gossip, a troublemaker, the bearer of a pernicious tongue. The ultimate test comes at church on Sunday. The weekly service is the one time the entire community gathers, a mandatory assembly of souls. It is the town's great theater, and you are about to play an unwilling part. As you walk to your family's assigned pew, you feel the weight of dozens of eyes on you. It's a physical pressure, a prickling on the back of your neck. You sit, staring straight ahead at the plain, unadorned pulpit, your face hot with shame. During the service, you dare a glance towards the Croft pew. Master Croft sits ramrod straight, his face a grim, stony mask. But it's his wife, Eleanor, who makes your stomach clench. She looks pale and drawn. Her eyes are fixed on the hymn book in her lap. But you can see she isn't reading. She is trying to make herself invisible. You see in her public shame a mirror of your own private misery. You did this to her. A few careless words, spoken for a moment's fleeting self-importance, have resulted in this real, tangible suffering. The knowledge is a bitter pill. The minister, Reverend Stone, climbs into the pulpit. His sermon, as if by divine or cruel coincidence, is on the 9th commandment, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." He thunders from the pulpit about the evils of slander, the wickedness of the idle tongue that spreads poison and discord within the flock. He doesn't mention you by name. He doesn't have to. Every word feels like it is aimed directly at your heart. You shrink down in your seat, wishing the hard wooden bench would swallow you whole. This kind of public, indirect shaming was a common and powerful tool in colonial society. A minister could address a specific sin or sinner from the pulpit without naming them, a practice that historians call capping. The entire congregation would know exactly who was being capped, and it served as both a punishment for the individual and a warning to the community. It was a highly effective method of social control, leveraging public shame to enforce conformity. One of the more peculiar forms of punishment from this era, reserved for repeat offenders of gossiping or scolding, was the CUC, King's to Lord at King's Store. This was a chair attached to a long lever, in which the offender, almost always a woman, would be strapped and then ducked into a river or pond. A ritual of public humiliation and discomfort. While your crime doesn't warrant such a dramatic and wet punishment, the principle is the same: to use public spectacle to correct private behavior. After the service, you try to slip out quickly, but there is no escaping the gauntlet. The congregation files out slowly, and you are forced to walk past your neighbors. No one speaks to you. The silence is a judgment. It screams your guilt louder than any shouted accusation. You make it home. Your heart a cold, heavy stone in your chest. The small, cozy house that once felt like a sanctuary now feels like a prison. You are isolated, cut off from the community that is your entire world. The sweet thrill of the rumor is a distant, knocking memory. All you are left with is the sour, gut-minus-wrenching reality of its consequences. You sit at your table, the same one where you first felt the illicit glow of your secret, and you stare at the wall. You wonder how long this will last. You pray it will all just blow over, but then you hear it. A short, official minus sounding knock on your front door. It's a sound that makes your blood run cold. That knock, it's not the friendly rap of a neighbor dropping by with a bit of news or a borrowed cup of sugar. It's a hard, authoritative sound. It's the sound of official business. Your husband, who has been sitting in stony silence since the sermon, looks at you. His face is a mixture of anger and resignation. He knows what this is. He gets up and unbars the door. Standing on your doorstep, silhouetted against the grey afternoon sky, is the town constable. H.E.S. not a stranger. H.E.S. a farmer you've known your whole life. A man who wears his authority like an ill-minus fitting coat. But today, he is not your neighbor. He is the law. "Good day, Thomas," your husband says, his voice strained. The constable nods, his gaze flicking past your husband to find you. "Mary," he says, his tone formal. Master Josiah Croft has made a complaint to the magistrate concerning slanderous reports against him and his wife. He holds out a folded piece of paper. You are summoned to appear before the magistrate tomorrow morning at his house. The piece of paper feels like a hot coal in your hand. A summons. The vague, creeping social shame has now solidified into a formal, legal proceeding. Master Croft, a man of his standing, is not going to let this go. H.E.S. not going to allow his family's name to be dragged through the mud of gossip. He is using the power and authority available to him to put a stop to it. And he is starting with the source, with you. The constable doesn't linger. He has delivered his message. He gives a curt nod and turns, leaving you and your husband standing in the open doorway, the cold air rushing in. Your husband slowly closes the door and bars it, the sound echoing the finality of a jail cell being locked. He turns to you, and the disappointment in his eyes is worse than any anger. "What have you done, Mary?" he asks, his voice low. "To bring this on our house. Master Croft is not a man to be trifled with. His business dealings are half the town's wages." You have no answer. You sink into a chair, the summons clutched in your hand. The rest of the day passes in a blur of dread. The evening meal is eaten in silence. The normal, comforting rhythms of your domestic life have been shattered. Every creak of the house sounds like an accusation. Every shadow looks like a disapproving glare. Here's a detail about the colonial legal system that makes your situation even more terrifying. There's no clear line between public and private. The magistrate you will face tomorrow is also one of the town elders, a man you see every Sunday in church. The courtroom will not be an imposing, anonymous building. It will be his own parlor, a room you may have even been in before for a social call. Justice is not a remote, abstract concept. It's personal. It's your neighbors judging you, based on a code of conduct that is as much about religious piety and social harmony as it is about written law. Historians often debate the fairness of this system. Was it a form of accessible, community-based justice, where disputes were settled by peers who understood the local context? Or was it a system ripe for abuse, where personal grudges and social hierarchies could easily sway a verdict, and the line between a legal proceeding and a public shaming was non-existent? Tomorrow, you are about to find out firsthand. You think about the evidence. There is no written proof, no signed confession. It is a case of he said, she said, or rather, she said, she said, she said. Your entire defense rests on the hope that Sarah will not betray you, that the chain of gossip is too tangled to trace back definitively. But it's a faint hope. In a town this small, the truth has a way of coming out, especially when prodded by a man as powerful as Master Croft. The fire in the hearth dies down, and the room grows cold. You know you should go to bed, that you need to rest before the ordeal of tomorrow. But sleep feels like an impossible luxury. You are trapped in a nightmare of your own making. The small, satisfying thrill you felt when you first shared the secret now seems like a distant, foolish delusion. You would give anything, the new ribbon, a month's worth of butter, anything to go back to that moment at the market and just keep your mouth shut. But you can't. The words are out. And tomorrow, you will have to answer for them. The next morning arrives not with the cold, clean light of a normal day, but with a heavy, oppressive grey that matches the mood in your soul. You dress with trembling hands, your husband watching you with a look of grim silence. There is no breakfast. The thought of food makes your stomach churn. At the appointed hour, you walk to the magistrate's house. Your husband walks beside you, a step behind, the silent, unwilling participant in your shame. The short walk through the town feels like miles. Every person you pass, every face in every window, seems to be watching. You feel their stares like physical blows. You keep your eyes fixed on the muddy path in front of you, your bonnet pulled low to hide your face. The magistrate's house is one of the finer homes in town, though not as grand as Master Croft's. It's a solid, respectable house, its windows clean, its doorstep swept. You feel a fresh wave of humiliation at the thought of bringing your messy, sordid business into this orderly home. The door is opened by the magistrate's wife, who gives you a look of profound pity before leading you into the parlor. And there they are. The room is not a formal courtroom, but it might as well be. The magistrate, Master Hawthorne, sits behind a heavy oak table, his face stern and impassive. To his right sits the minister, Reverend Stone, his presence a reminder that this is a matter of both civil and spiritual transgression. And on the other side of the room, seated in hard miners-backed chairs, are Master Josiah Croft and his wife, Eleanor. Croft's arms are across his daughter. Eleanor stares at her hands, which are clasped tightly in her lap. She does not look at you. The sight of them, the real, human victims of your careless words, sends a jolt of pure shame through you. There are no lawyers, no jury. This is not a trial by your peers in the modern sense. It is an inquiry, a hearing before the town's moral and civil authorities. Mary, the magistrate begins, his voice low and even. Master Croft has brought a serious charge against you. He claims you are the origin of a malicious and false rumor that has damaged his family's good name and caused great distress to his wife. Your mouth is dry. You try to speak, but only a small croak comes out. The rumor, the magistrate continues, as it has reached my ears, contains accusations of popery and the secret importation of idolatrous items. A grave charge indeed. He pauses, letting the weight of the words fill the silent room. Master Croft, however, has provided the manifest from his ship, the Sea Serpent. It has been reviewed by myself and the Reverend. He gestures to a document on the table. The manifest shows a private crate, as the rumors claim, but it contained not the devil's trinkets, but 5 bolts of fine linen from Holland, a roll of serviceable lace, and 2 dresses of modest, dark minus blue silk, a gift for his wife on their anniversary, an indulgence, perhaps, he says, giving Croft a pointed look, but not a sin, and certainly not popery. The truth is laid bare, simple and mundane. There are no secret chapels, no rosary beads, just a husband buying a gift for his wife, a gift that, in the crucible of your town's envy and suspicion, was melted down and recast into a weapon. So the magistrate says, his eyes locking onto yours. The rumor of popery is false, but the rumor of a private crate of fine goods did not spring from nothing. Goodwife Allen says she heard it from Goodwife Brent, who heard it from your friend, Goodwife Sarah. And when I spoke to Sarah this morning, he says, his voice dropping, she, with great reluctance, confirmed that she heard the story from you at the market. Is this true? It's over. Sarah has told the truth. The chain is complete, and it ends with you. There is no point in denying it. You look down at the floorboards, the intricate patterns of the wood blurring through your tears. Yes, you whisper, it is true. You can feel Master Croft's glare, but it is the sound of a small, sharp intake of breath from Eleanor that cuts you to the core. The magistrate leans back. The trial part is over. Now comes the sentencing. And here's a critical, often misunderstood aspect of Puritan justice. The primary goal was not always punishment in the sense of pain or imprisonment. For a crime like yours, the goal was repentance, reconciliation, and the restoration of community harmony. The punishment had to fit the crime, and since your crime was a public one, a sin of words that damaged the community's fabric, the remedy had to be public as well. Yours was the tongue that planted the seed of this falsehood, the magistrate says, his voice taking on a judicial finality. Though others may have watered it, the root is yours. You have broken the bonds of charity and good neighborliness. You have caused harm to a good family, and sown discord in this town. He looks at the Reverend, who nods slowly. You will not be fined, the magistrate continues. You will not be placed in the stocks. That is a punishment for common criminals and the unrepentant. We hope you are neither. He pauses again, making you wait. Instead, you will make a public apology. A public apology. The word seems simple, almost mild, but you know what it means. It is, in many ways, a fate worse than the stocks. The stocks are a physical discomfort, a temporary, impersonal shame. This is a deep, personal humiliation, a ritual of self-abasement to be performed in front of everyone you know. You will stand before the congregation after the service this coming Sunday, he declares, and you will read, in a clear voice, a confession of your sin. The Reverend Stone will help you prepare it, to ensure the words are suitable and your repentance is plain. This is the judgment. He looks at Master Croft. Are you satisfied with this remedy, sir? Croft gives a stiff, formal nod. I am. The hearing is over. You are dismissed. You stumble out of the room, out of the house, and back into the cold light of day. The magistrate's sentence echoing in your head. A public apology. You have a week to prepare for the most humiliating moment of your life. The week that follows is the longest of your life. It's a week lived in a state of suspended animation, a grey limbo of dread. Every tick of the tall case clock in your parlor is a countdown to your public humiliation. You move through your daily chores like an automaton, your mind elsewhere, constantly replaying the scene in the magistrate's parlor and imagining the horror of the scene to come. Sleep offers no escape. You lie awake on your rustling cornhusk mattress, staring into the darkness. The silence of the night is no longer peaceful. It's a void that your anxious mind rushes to fill with terrifying possibilities. You imagine standing before the town, your voice trembling so much you can't speak. You imagine the faces in the crowd, the stern, judgmental gaze of the elders, the pitying looks of your former friends, the triumphant smirk of Goodwife Putnam, who started it all but remains unpunished. In your waking hours, the silence is just as bad. Your husband speaks to you only when necessary, his words clipped and cold. He is a man shamed by his wife's actions, and your house is thick with his unspoken resentment. The children are quiet and watchful, sensing the deep trouble in the air but not understanding its source. The comforting domestic sphere has become a small, cold prison of shame. On Wednesday, as instructed, you go to see Reverend Stone. You sit in his study, a room filled with the smell of old books and beeswax, and he slides a piece of paper across the desk to you. It is your confession, written in his neat, severe hand. Read it, he says, his voice not unkind, but firm. You pick it up. The words are formal, steeped in the language of sin and repentance. I, Mary, deuced, and before God and this congregation, to confess my grievous sin of a loose and idle tongue. I did, with malice and vanity in my heart, speak false and slanderous words against my good neighbours, Master Josiah and Eleanor Croft, thereby sowing discord and uncharity in this community. Each word is a fresh stab of shame. The text goes on, forcing you to admit to pride, to envy, to bearing false witness. It forces you to ask for forgiveness not only from God, but also from the Crofts and from the entire congregation whose harmony you have disrupted. It is a document of total self-abasement. You will practice reading it aloud. The Reverend instructs, so that your voice is clear and your contrition is evident to all. This aspect of the punishment, the written and rehearsed confession, is a fascinating unspecific feature of Puritan justice. Historians who study these documents note that they followed a strict formula. The goal wasn't just to apologize, but to perform a specific type of public repentance that reinforced the community's shared moral values. The offender had to publicly affirm the very rules they had broken. It was a piece of social theater in which you were the star, but the script was written by the authorities to serve the community's needs. A strange and somewhat awkward detail of this process is that the quality of your performance mattered. A mumbled, half-hearted apology might be deemed insufficient by the church elders, who could then demand you do it again the following week, prolonging the agony. Your shame had to be convincing. You go home and you practice. You stand in your small kitchen, the confession trembling in your hand, and you read the words aloud to the empty room. Your voice cracks, tears stream down your face. It feels like you are freeing yourself, stripping away every last shred of your pride. The act of repeatedly speaking your own shame is a unique and effective form of psychological torment. You try to find solace in prayer, but your mind is too full of dread. You try to lose yourself in your work, but every pause, every moment of quiet, brings the looming spectre of Sunday back into sharp focus. The simple, rhythmic tasks of your life have lost their comfort. Churning butter, mending a shirt, stoking the fire, they are all just ways of killing time until your sentence must be served. You live as a ghost in your own town. If you must go to the market, you go at the quietest time of day, your head down, your interactions brief and brittle. The social fabric of your life has been torn, and you are dangling by a thread. The community you once felt so securely a part of has become a jury of silent, judging faces. The dread is a physical thing. It's a knot in your stomach, a tightness in your chest. You lose your appetite. The nights are long and filled with a quiet terror that is somehow worse than any nightmare. You are not afraid of physical pain. You are afraid of something far more profound, complete and utter, social annihilation. You are afraid of being erased. The dreaded Sunday morning arrives. It is a crisp, clear day, the kind of beautiful autumn morning that feels like a personal mockery. The sky is a brilliant, unforgiving blue. There is no grey gloom to hide in. The first ordeal of the day is a strangely intimate one, choosing what to wear. This is not about vanity. It is a strategic decision. You cannot wear your best clothes. That would be seen as prideful and unrepentant, a shocking display of defiance. But you cannot wear rags or your dirtiest work clothes either. That would be seen as a different kind of theatricality, an overly dramatic performance of shame that might not be read as sincere. You must choose the plainest, Those sober outfit you own, a dress of simple, dark brown wool, a clean butter, unadorned linen apron and cap, no ribbon, no lace, no buckle on your shoes. You must look neat, humble, and, above all, sorry. Your clothes must be a visual representation of your lowly state. This act of dressing for your own shaming is a final, private humiliation before the public one begins. When the time comes, your husband opens the door. He doesn't look at you, but he waits for you. He will escort you. It is his duty as the head of the household. A household you have disgraced. His presence is not a comfort. It is another layer of your punishment, a public display of the shame you have brought upon him. The walk to the meeting house is the longest walk of your life. The town is quiet. The only sounds the crunch of your shoes on the fallen leaves in the distance, solemn tolling of the church bell, calling the faithful to worship and to witness your downfall. You feel like you are walking naked. Every window you pass seems to hold a face. Every person you see on the path, families in their Sunday best, walking briskly towards the meeting house, averts their gaze as you approach. They don't stare directly, which is somehow worse. They give you a wide berth, as if your shame is a contagious disease. You are an outcast, a pariah, and the entire community is silently ratifying this status as you walk. Here's a small, poignant detail about the social geography of your town. The meeting house is on a slight hill, the highest point in the town center. This was deliberate, to make it visible from all around, a constant reminder of God's presence. But today, it means you are literally walking uphill to your judgment, the slow, arduous climb towards the place of your greatest shame. You reach the crowded square in front of the meeting house. The entire town is here, milling about, before the service. As you and your husband begin to cross the square, a hush falls over the nearest groups. The hush spreads like a ripple in a pond. Conversations die. People turn. And this time, they do stare. They stare with a mixture of curiosity, pity, and a certain grim satisfaction. It's the look people give when they are witnessing a spectacle, a break from the monotony of daily life. You are today's entertainment. You finally reach the heavy wooden doors of the meeting house and slip inside, desperate to escape the sea of eyes. But the inside is no better. The room is packed, the pews filled with the faces of everyone you have ever known. You walk the central aisle to your family's assigned pew, your footsteps echoing in the sudden, heavy silence. You slide onto the hard bench and stare resolutely forward, the crumpled, sweat-dampened paper of your confession clutched in your hand. The service begins. You hear none of it. The hymns, the prayers, the sermon, it's all a meaningless drone. Your entire being is focused on the moment that will come after the final amen. The service, which usually feels punishingly long, today feels terrifyingly short. Each part of the liturgy that concludes is another step on the gallows. Finally, the sermon ends. The last hymn is sung. The benediction is given. The congregation wrestles, preparing to leave, but the Reverend holds up the hand for silence. Remain in your seats, he says, his voice echoing in the rafters. Mary has a matter to confess before God and this congregation. This is it. Your husband prods you gently. You rise on trembling legs. The wood of the pew scrapes against the floor. The sound that seems as loud as a cannon blast in the silent room. You turn and walk the few steps to the front, to the open space before the pulpit. You turn to face them all. I see your faces, all looking at you. You can't breathe. For a moment, you think you are going to faint, but you don't. You can't. That would be too easy an escape. You must see this through. You are on stage, and the performance is about to begin. You stand alone in the open space before the pulpit. The meeting house is unnerving and quiet. The only sound is the frantic, third minus like flutter of your own heart against your ribs. The air is thick with the collective, silent expectation of 200 people. Every eye in the room is fixed on you. You see their faces stern, curious, pitying, judgmental. You see your friend Sarah, her face pale, refusing to meet your gaze. You see the Crofts, sitting in the front pew, their presence a powerful, silent accusation. You look down at the piece of paper in your hands. It trembles, the words blurring. For a terrifying second, you think you won't be able to do it. Your throat is tight. Your mouth is dry as dust. You take a shaky, shallow breath. You must. This is your only way through. You raise the paper, holding it with both hands to still the shaking, and you begin to read. I, Mary. Your voice comes out as a weak, reedy whisper. It's barely audible. From the pulpit behind you, you hear the Reverend clear his throat. It's a gentle but firm command louder. You swallow hard and start again, forcing the sound from your diaphragm. I, Mary, deuced and before God and this congregation to confess my grievous sin of a loose and idle tongue. The sound of your own voice, speaking these words of self-minus condemnation, is a surreal and deeply jarring experience. It's you, but it's not you. You are a vessel, a mouthpiece for the town's judgment upon itself, using you as the instrument. I did. You continue, your voice gaining a slight, quavering momentum, with malice and vanity in my heart. Speak false and slanderous words against my good neighbors, Master Josiah and Dylan Orcroft. As you say their names, you force yourself to look at them. Master Croft's expression is unreadable, a mask of grim propriety, but Eleanor flinches, a small, almost imperceptible movement, as if your words are tiny, sharp stones hitting her. The sight of her pain is a fresh wave of guilt, and it paradoxically gives you the strength to go on. This is what you owe them. You continue reading, the rhythm of the formal, 3 written sentences carrying you forward. You confess to sowing discord. You confess to breaking the bonds of Christian charity. You admit that your words were the devil's work, born of envy and a prideful heart. The language is harsh, absolute. There are no shades of grey here. No room for excuses or explanations. You are not allowed to say, I only said what I heard, or I didn't mean for it to go so far. The script demands total and complete ownership of the sin. This ritual of public confession, while horrifying to our modern sensibilities, was seen as a vital part of the healing process for the community. Historians who study these confessions point out they served a dual purpose. For the sinner, it was a path to reintegration, by publicly humbling yourself and reaffirming the community's values. You were, in theory, making yourself eligible for forgiveness and a return to the fold. For the community, it was a powerful morality play. It was a visceral, unforgettable lesson about the consequences of transgression. Everyone watching you today is being reminded of where the boundaries lie. A bizarre and almost darkly comical detail from some of these historical confessions is that they could be surprisingly specific. Someone might be forced to confess to idly spending my time in the tavern on Tuesday last or speaking disrespectfully of the quality of the magistrate's new fence. The specificity was part of the humiliation. Your private sin was being given a public, detailed error. You reach the final part of the confession, and so I do humbly beg the forgiveness of God, of this church, and most especially of Master and good wife Croft, whose good name I have so wickedly injured. I throw myself upon their mercy and the mercy of this community, and I promise to guard my tongue and harbor charity in my heart from this day forward. You finish. The last word hangs in the dead, silent air. The ordeal is over. You stand there for a moment, head bowed, the empty piece of paper still in your hands. You have done it. You have performed your own vivisection for the entire town to see. The Reverend Stone rises from his chair in the pulpit. The confession has been made, he announces to the congregation. It is now for the wronged party to accept it, and for this community to show its Christian charity. He looks pointedly at the Croft pew. After a long, agonizing moment, Master Croft stands up. He gives a stiff, formal bow of his head. The apology is accepted, he says, his voice devoid of emotion. He then sits back down. It is done. The legal and religious requirement has been met. You have paid your debt, not with money or physical pain, but with the currency of pure, unadulterated shame. You are free to go. You don't remember walking back to your pew. It's as if your legs moved of their own accord while your mind was still floating in a sea of shame. You slide onto the bench next to your husband, who pointedly does not look at you. The Reverend says a final, brief prayer for the restoration of harmony, and then the congregation is dismissed. The rustle of clothing and the scraping of benches on the floor sound unnaturally loud. This is the moment you have been dreading almost as much as the confession itself, the aftermath. The slow, agonizing process of leaving the meeting house. If the walk to church was a walk of shame, the walk from it is a walk through a social desert. As the pews empty, people file past you, and they do just that, they file past you. No one speaks to you. No one catches your eye. No one offers a nod of sympathy or a word of encouragement. It is as if you are a ghost, a phantom occupying space but not truly there. You are surrounded by people, yet you have never felt so completely and utterly alone. This enforced silence is the next, unspoken phase of your punishment. You have confessed. Master Croft has accepted. But forgiveness from the community is not granted so easily. It must be earned, over time, through quiet, humble, and flawless behavior. For now, you are on social probation. You are contaminated, and no one wants to risk associating with you. You and your husband join the slow moving river of people heading for the doors. You keep your eyes glued to the floor, but you can feel the space that people create around you. A small, invisible bubble of social isolation. You are an island of shame in a sea of righteousness. Finally, you are outside, back in the bright, indifferent sunlight. The square is full of people clustering into their familiar social groups, chatting and laughing. The normal, cheerful post-service atmosphere has resumed, but you are not a part of it. You are outside the circle of warmth, looking in. The walk home is a mirror image of the journey there. But worse, before, you are walking toward a dreaded event. Now, you are walking away from it, with the fresh, raw memory of the humiliation clinging to you like a shroud. The silence from your husband is heavier now, filled with the memory of your public abasement. You reach your small house and step inside. The door closes, shutting out the world, but it doesn't shut out the shame. The shame is inside you. It has taken up residence in your heart. You sit at your table, the same place where this whole journey of misery began, and you feel empty. The adrenaline of the ordeal has faded, leaving behind a profound, hollow exhaustion. Here, historians who study the emotional landscape of colonial America find a poignant truth. The goal of this kind of punishment was to make you feel the terror of sin, not just a fear of God's wrath in the afterlife, but a present-day terror of social exclusion for people whose entire survival, physical, economic, and spiritual, depended on their standing within the community. This was the most terrifying thing imaginable. To be shunned was a kind of social death. A strange but documented consequence of these public shamings was a period of intense, almost paranoid self-monitoring. For weeks and months afterward, you will be exquisitely sensitive to how people are treating you. You'll dissect every glance, every brief greeting. Was that nod from the blacksmith sincere? Or was it pitying? Did Goodwife Miller deliberately cross the street to avoid you? You are now forced to become a hyper-vigilant reader of the very social codes you so carelessly violated. The rest of the day passes in a grey haze. Your husband eventually goes out, probably to the tavern, to escape the oppressive atmosphere of the house. You are left alone with your children and your thoughts. You try to focus on the simple, tangible tasks of running a household. You stoke the fire. You prepare a simple meal, but there is no comfort in the routine. It all feels meaningless. You have paid your price. You have confessed and been forgiven. But you know, with a certainty that settles deep in your bones, that this is not the end. The formal punishment is over. The informal one is just beginning. The path back to being a normal, accepted member of this community will be long and arduous, and you will have to walk it alone. The days that follow your public apology are a study in quiet misery. The world has not ended, but your world has shrunk. You exist in a state of social limbo, a ghost haunting the edges of your own life. The silence from your neighbors is a constant, suffocating presence. Your daily trip to the well, once a source of news and connection, is now an exercise in silent humiliation. The other women fall quiet when you approach. They turn their backs, busying themselves with their buckets. They don't speak to you, and you don't dare speak to them. You draw your water in a pocket of profound silence and leave as quickly as you can, your cheeks burning. The market is no better. You try to haggle with a farmer over the price of carrots, but he looks right through you, his face impassive, and quotes you a higher price than you know he is giving others. It's a small, petty act of punishment, a reminder of your diminished status. You pay it without argument. You have no standing to complain. Your husband remains distant. The shame you brought upon the family name hangs between you. A thick, impenetrable curtain. The easy intimacy you once shared is gone, replaced by a strained, formal politeness. You are partners in a household, but you are no longer friends. This period of shunning, of being treated as a social invisible, is the long, slow, grinding part of the punishment. It is designed to break down any remaining vestiges of pride, to ensure that the lesson of your transgression is learned not just in your mind, but in your very bones. Historians debate the long minus term effectiveness of such methods. Did this kind of intense social pressure truly create more virtuous, cohesive communities, or did it simply breed resentment, hypocrisy, and a population of people who were terrified of ever speaking their minds? It likely did both. It certainly enforced a rigid public conformity, but the private thoughts and feelings of the people remained their own. Your own heart, for instance, is a complex mix of genuine remorse and a bitter, simmering resentment toward those who judged you, especially those you know to be just as guilty of gossip as you were. One afternoon, about a week after your confession, you were in your small garden, listlessly pulling weeds. It's a pointless task. The first hard frost will kill everything soon enough, but it is something to do, a way to be occupied. As you work, you are aware of someone approaching. You don't look up, bracing yourself for another silent shunning. But a shadow falls over you, and a voice speaks your name. Mary. You look up, squinting in the afternoon sun. It is Eleanor Croft. Your heart leaps into your throat. You scramble to your feet, wiping your dirty hands on your apron. Your mind racing. Is she here to berate you further? To gloat? You stand before her, head bowed, unable to meet her eyes. Good wife Croft, you murmur, your voice barely a whisper. She is silent for a long moment. You can feel her looking at you, and you brace yourself for a fresh wave of condemnation. The frost will be here soon, she says, her voice quiet and even. Your parsley will not survive it. You should bring it inside. You are so stunned. You can only stare at her. She is not talking about the rumor. She is not talking about your sin. She is talking about parsley. It is such a simple, mundane, normal thing to say that it feels utterly extraordinary. You finally find your voice. Yes, you manage to say, "Thank you, I will." She looks at you for another moment, and in her eyes, you don't see hatred or anger. You see a deep, weary sadness. She, too, has been a victim of the town's vicious talk. She, too, has felt the sting of public scrutiny. In this moment, you are not sinner and victim. You are just two women, standing in a garden, who have both been wounded by the same cruel weapon. Here's a small, human detail that often gets lost in the grand narratives of Puritan society. While the formal structures were rigid and judgmental, individual acts of grace and compassion still occurred. Forgiveness was not just a theological concept, it was a human choice. Historians find evidence in diaries and letters of these small moments of connection that cut through the harshness of the official social code. Eleanor's act of speaking to you, of offering a piece of simple, practical advice, is one such moment. She gives a small, almost imperceptible nod. "Good day to you, Mary," she says, and then she turns and walks away. You stand there in your garden, watching her go, long after she has disappeared down the path, and you feel something you haven't felt in weeks. A tiny, fragile flicker of hope. It is not forgiveness, not yet. It is not acceptance, but is a crack in the ice, a small recognition of your shared humanity. You look down at your parsley plant, its green leaves vibrant against the dark soil, and for the first time since that terrible Sunday, You feel a tear slide down your cheek. But this time, it is not a tear of shame or of fear. It is a tear of something that feels, impossibly, like gratitude. Eleanor Croft's small act of grace is not a magic wand. It does not instantly repair your tattered reputation or mend the broken bonds of your community. The days that follow are still marked by a quiet, pervasive chill, but something inside you has shifted. The monolithic wall of shame now has a small crack in it, a tiny opening through which a little light can pass. You begin to notice other, equally small thoughts. The blacksmith, Sarah's husband, who had been avoiding your gaze, deals you a brief, almost imperceptible nod as you pass his workshop. The woman who sells eggs at the market no longer overcharges you. These are not gestures of friendship. They are signals. They are the town's way of saying that your period of intense quarantine is beginning to lift. You are still on probation, but you are no longer entirely untouchable. The real turning point, however, comes from an unexpected quarter. It comes, as it so often does in a small town, in the form of a new scandal. One morning, you are at the well, performing your now minus silent ritual of drawing water. The other women are there, but their usual hushed chatter is more agitated than usual. Their conversation is a low, angry buzz, like a disturbed beehive. You keep your distance, as you have learned to do, but you can't help but overhear the subject of their outrage. It seems the cooper, the man who makes and sells barrels, has been cheating his customers. He has been using green, unseasoned wood for his flour barrels. When the wood dries, the staves shrink, the seams open, and the flour inside is exposed to moisture and pests. Several households have lost a significant portion of their precious winter flour supply. In a world where a barrel of flour can mean the difference between a comfortable winter and a hungry one, this is not a small matter. This is a profound betrayal of trust, a crime that affects the entire community as well minus B. The gossip you spread was about vanity and reputation. It was air. This new scandal is about something tangible, something essential food. The cooper's sin is a practical one, and therefore, in many ways, a more serious one. You watch as the town's collective attention, their powerful, singular focus that was so recently aimed at you, now swivels like a great lighthouse beam and fixes itself upon the unfortunate cooper. He is the new topic of conversation at the well, the new subject of grim speculation at the market, the new target of the community's righteous anger. This is the relentless, churning metabolism of a small town. A community this insular needs a constant supply of drama to function, to reinforce its boundaries and regulate its members. It needs a sinner to remind everyone else what it means to be a saint. And today, the designated sinner is no longer you. This phenomenon is something sociologists call deviant simplification. A community will often focus on a single act of wrongdoing, amplifying its significance to serve a social purpose. But this focus is rarely permanent. As new transgressions occur, the spotlight moves. Your own story, which once seemed like the most important event in the world, is now becoming old news. A strange and specific aspect of colonial life was the importance of one's trade reputation. A minister's reputation was based on his piety, a woman's on her chastity and domestic skills. But for a craftsman like the cooper, his name was synonymous with the quality of his work. To be known as a cheat was to face economic ruin. The punishment he will face might not be a public apology, but a slow, steady decline in business that could eventually force him to leave the town altogether. As you walk home from the well, the water in your bucket feels a little lighter. You feel a sense of relief so profound it almost makes you dizzy. But it is a guilty relief. You are being saved by another person's downfall. You see the cooper across the square, and he looks like a hunted man. You see in his panicked eyes the same terror you felt just a few weeks ago, and you feel a pang of genuine pity. You, of all people, know what he is about to go through. Over the next few weeks, the ice around you continues to melt. One day, Sarah, your former friend, approaches you at the market. She doesn't apologize, and you don't ask for one. The betrayal hangs in the air between you, an unspoken truth, but she asks after your youngest child's cough. It is a fragile, tentative peace offering, A conversation about a child's health is safe ground. You accept it for what it is, a beginning. Your life is slowly, cautiously, returning to a semblance of normality. The wound to your reputation is healing, though you know it will leave a permanent scar. You have learned a hard, painful lesson. You have been through the fire of public shame and come out the other side, quieter, warrior, and, you hope, a little wiser. The nights are growing longer now. The autumn air sharp with the promise of winter. You sit in your small home, in the familiar, flickering glow of the fire. The house is quiet. The mending is done. The supper is cleared away. It is a scene almost identical to the one that began this journey weeks ago. But everything is different, because you are different. The silence in the room no longer feels empty or oppressive. It feels peaceful. It's a quiet you have earned, a quiet you now cherish. You look around the small, familiar room, at the sturdy wooden table and the simple pewter plates, and you feel a sense of gratitude for their solid, unassuming reality. Your husband sits across from you, oiling a piece of leather for a new axe handle. The silence between you is no longer the cold, hard silence of anger. It is a softer, more settled quiet. The chasm that opened up between you has not vanished, but you have begun to build a fragile bridge across it. Last night, he told you a joke he heard at the tavern. You laughed, a real and forced laugh. It was a small thing, but it felt momentous. Your place in the community is slowly being restored. The daily trip to the well is no longer an ordeal. The conversations still halt for a beat when you arrive, but then they resume, and sometime, someone will even direct a question to you. Mary, do you think this code will hold? It is a simple, weather-minus related question, but it is an invitation back into the circle. You answer carefully, your words measured and thoughtful. You do not offer opinions. You state fact. You have learned it the hard way about the dangers of an unguarded tongue. The great historical question that hangs over your experience is whether the punishment worked. Did this brutal, shaming ritual actually make you a better person, or did it just make you a more fearful one? The answer is complex. You are certainly more cautious. The sweet, tempting thrill of sharing a juicy secret is gone forever, replaced by the bitter memory of its consequences. You will never again underestimate the power of words to wound, to destroy. But perhaps you are also more compassionate. When you hear the whispers about the Cooper's shoddy barrels, you feel no satisfaction, no grim pleasure in another's downfall. Instead, you change the subject. You refuse to participate. You have seen the human cost of gossip, and you will not be a party to it again. You have looked into the face of public shame, and it has taught you a profound, unwelcome empathy. A curious, final detail of colonial life is the concept of a renewed reputation. In some cases, a person who went through a public confession and then lived an exemplary life afterward could actually achieve a higher social standing than they had before. Their public struggle with sin, and their subsequent victory over it, became a testament to their moral strength. They were seen as tested, their character forged in the fire of public humiliation. You don't know if you will ever reach that point. For now, you are content with just being a neighbor again. You get up and add another log to the fire. The flames leap up, casting a warm, dancing light on the walls of your home. You are back where you started, in the heart of your small, circumscribed world, but you see it now with new eyes. You see the fragility of the bonds that hold it all together, the constant, delicate work required to maintain harmony in a world where everyone lives in each other's pockets. You have learned that a community is not just a collection of houses. It's a web of words, of stories, of reputations, and you have learned that a single, careless thread can unravel the whole damn thing. You are wiser now. The knowledge was bought at a terrible price, but it is yours forever. As you bank the fire for the night and prepare for bed, you feel a quiet sense of peace. The storm has passed. You have survived. And tomorrow, you will wake up, and for the first time in a long time, the only thing you will have to fear is the morning chill. The fire in the hearth breathes its last, a soft orange sigh that gently surrenders to the darkness of the room. And so, you too can let the day, with all its sharp edges. Fade away now, the memory of the cold stairs, the long walk, the trembling paper in your hand. All of it can soften, the details blurring, drifting away like embers on a gentle evening breeze. The little colonial town, with its tight-knit houses and its silent, watchful windows, is receding now, becoming just a story. A faint echo whispered in the deep velvet of the night. Feel the heavy comfort of the quilt settle around you, an anchor in the quiet harbor of your bed, holding you safe. The world of harsh judgments and whispered rumors melts away, dissolving into a soft, indistinct landscape of dreams. There, in the space between waking and sleeping, thoughts are no longer clear sentences, but slow, drifting clouds of grey and silver. There is nothing left to do now, no one to please, no one to placate. There is only the simple, steady rhythm of your own breathing. Inhale the quiet, and exhale the day. Let the story dissolve completely, leaving only the profound peace that follows in its wake. Your journey is done. Rest now, and let the silence carry you into a deep and untroubled sleep. The end of the article. Good night.